But also, well, this last summer in Europe and in Croatia said it was the warmest summer ever. And the reason is climate changes. What do you think about this?
Well, of course, it's nonsense because what they really mean is the warmest summer since 1980 or something like that, because the records aren't very good. It's completely clear that it was much warmer, at least in my ancestral country of Scotland, in the year 1000, the year 1100, than it is today. You know, you can see farms up in high altitudes where you can't farm today, but they work just fine in the year 1100. And so that's an example of natural climate change. It was the same period when the Norse settled Greenland and farmed for 2 or 3 centuries there, but you can't farm there anymore because it's gotten too cold. And I'm sure you'll find the same evidence if you look in Croatia. If you look at the high mountain slopes, you'll find farms in Croatia that were there in the year 1000, 1100 that could not possibly work today. It's too cold.
Yes, but also, can you tell us, is there more advantages from warmer weather than disadvantages?
Well, certainly, if you look at human statistics, many more people die of weather that's too cold than weather that's too warm. It's about 10 to 1. So if you want people to live longer, you want more warm days and less cold days. And, you know, over most of the temperate world, where most of the warming is taking place, there's almost no warming in tropical areas. What little warming there's been is closer to the poles. The longer the growing season, the better. The better your crops do, the better your economy does. So in general, warming periods have always been good for civilization and cooling periods have been bad. You know, you can look through history, that's always been the case.
Politicians made a plan and they want to stop increasing of temperature on the level 1.5 to 2 centigrade since 1850. Why they put this limit?
It's a meaningless number. You know, if the temperature were to increase 1.5 degrees, it's already increased by 1 degree, roughly, and nothing's happened. The only thing that's happened is that civilization is in better shape now than it was in 1850. So it's an absolutely phony number that doesn't mean anything.
That's why we need to explain, okay, what really drives climate changes. We are facing that climate is changing all the time from the history.
Correct.
What drives the climate changes?
Well, that's an important question, and it's important for humanity, and answering it has probably been set back by 50 years by this crazy focus on carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases. One thing is certain, that greenhouse gases don't have very much to do with it. Because, you know, if you look over the last 10,000 years, the Holocene, there's been lots of warmings, there have been lots of coolings, and carbon dioxide has hardly changed at all. And then if you look over longer periods throughout the ice ages, it's true that when temperatures go up, carbon dioxide goes up. When they go down, carbon dioxide goes down. But it's also clear that it is temperature that's causing carbon dioxide to go up and down, not vice versa. Because first the temperature increases and carbon dioxide increases a little bit. Then temperature goes down, and a few hundred years later, carbon dioxide goes down. So that's simply removing carbon dioxide from the oceans. Most of the carbon dioxide is in the ocean. It's not in the atmosphere. At least 50 times as much carbon dioxide in the oceans as in the atmosphere. And so a tiny amount of ocean warming will release carbon dioxide, and a tiny amount of cooling will suck it in.
Well, there is also one big discussion about one famous paper. They call it hockey stick paper, where there is an explanation that for thousands of years temperature was the same, and then suddenly last few hundred years went up. But it seems to that these measures were wrong. What do you know about this?
Well, that was Michael Mann's hockey stick. Michael Mann has had a hard week. He was just slapped down by an American judge in Washington, D.C. He had won a court case for damages of $1 million, and the judge issued a ruling saying that the whole trial was full of fraud and dishonesty, and that he was reducing the award to $5,000, and that Mann was supposed to pay the court costs of his opponents. So the hockey stick curve was a curve that Mann generated, which supposedly showed the temperature from about the year 1000 until today. And it showed a completely flat temperature from the year 1000 until 1900, and then it shot up like the blade of a hockey stick. And everyone who looked at that thought, good grief, how did that ever get published? Because if you look at the first IPCC report, the Intergovernmental Panel report, it did not have a hockey stick in it. It had that curve, but it showed very clearly the medieval warm period and the Little Ice Age. They were all there. There were lots of evidence for that. And then all of a sudden it disappeared thanks to Michael Mann. And so everyone in the climate alarm business was just delighted. It made the cover of the next IPCC report. You know, all the true believers latched onto it. But there's no evidence that it's correct. It's probably, you know, there's an enormous amount of literature on that your readers can look up. All you have to do is Google on it. You'll find, you know, the heroes there are a couple of Canadians, Steve McIntyre, who's a mining engineer, and Ross McKittrick, an economist, and they dug into what Mann had actually done, and it's just an embarrassment from my point of view for science.
Yes, I heard the same thing, and it's still in the IPCC assessment report 6, last one, what was 3 years ago published.